Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is January 9th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Take a look here at the Pineapple Express, all the way from Hawaii into western British Columbia. Just a nickname for an atmospheric river, strong low up towards the Gulf of Alaska. Some ridging here across the west coast, and we'll take a look at what is yet to come because we do have a frontal system that'll be moving through as we go through the day tomorrow on Friday. And we'll take a look at that. Some mountain snows are going to be arriving with it as well. And then we'll take a look at the extended forecast, which continues to look interesting at times. And we'll take a look at the most recent runs with regard to that information. But first things first, you can see we got some fog across some of the central and southern Willamette Valley. You can see some of that cooler air and some of those low clouds across eastern Washington, Oregon. Check out the fog moving around and through some of the Treasure Valley there in Idaho, creeping out towards Boise a little bit here in Pocatello. And a fogged in there, some of western Montana, the Idaho Panhandle as well. And again, you can kind of see some of the clouds riding up and across the area. Can't tell if there's a lenticular cloud or not going off across Mount Rainier. Actually, if we look a little bit closer, it might show us there could be something going on there. Anyway, lenticular cloud chasing is one of my hobbies, if you didn't know. But now taking a look here, this has been a recent update here. So January 9th, climate.gov talking about La Nina is here officially. And they go through this step chart here where you see you start is, are we below negative 0.5, which we are. Yes, we do expect to be there here for the next several months. And then so we go to yes. The atmosphere does look like it has indications of the increased strengthened Walker circulation, otherwise known as the Southern Oscillation Index, is in positive territory. So technically, yes, the atmosphere and conditions do favor La Nina conditions right now. It's a very weak La Nina, however. And you can kind of see where we are right about now as we head on in through January 2025. So kind of interesting to see that here. It'll be interesting to see what they talk about here over the next few days as well. And we'll get another update here, a monthly update, as far as what we can expect through the winter period remaining and on in through the early portion of next spring. And I get a lot of questions on what weather station I recommend, and I highly recommend this one, especially if you don't want to spend thousands of dollars on a much more expensive weather station. Great smartphone app. All this is wireless. Solar panels here power the station. Temperature is pretty accurate. Ultrasonic anemometer. It does UV index, solar radiation. It's got a haptic rain gauge with it. And I put it on the top of my setup here. I've got several anemometers, including a Davis ultrasonic, a Davis 3 cup there. And on the very top, I put the Tempest. And I compared it yesterday. The Tempest topped out 11 miles per hour yesterday. The Davis 3 cup had 10 miles per hour. So I'll be comparing the wind speeds here over the next few months. Now, towards the forecast, so taking a look here, we do have this potential through tomorrow, wintry mix of very light precipitation, but sometimes that's the worst. When you just get a light glaze out there, it can make things slick, walkways coming out of your house and whatnot. You can see Moses Lake, Ritzville, Wilbur, Chelan, Wenatchee are included in that. 8 to 12 for Stevens Pass. We got Lookout Pass 4 to 6. That is I-90 going towards the Montana-Idaho border. But yeah, heads up for that. And you can see a little bit of snow towards Spokane. I know I've got some reports from some people who watch the channel locally across northeast Washington. They got a few inches of snowfall. So yeah, some of the higher elevations have been doing fairly well as far as snowfall is concerned. They updated here this morning at 5 a.m. This is Pendleton, Oregon. You can see we got some snow coming in here as we go through the day Friday. You can see Blue Box Pass looks like 1 inch, a White Pass 2 to 3. Snoqualmie, maybe a couple inches there, maybe a little bit more. I'll show you what the weather models have to say about that here coming up. But mainly 4,000 feet higher for places in Oregon. Winter weather advisories up for some portions of the Cascades. If you click on that, that's from 6 a.m. Friday to 6 a.m. on Saturday. A bit of convergent zone activity, keeping some of those showers going on in through Saturday. Generally above 2,500 feet. And we do have some air stagnation advisories out there. You see Mountain Home, Idaho, there's Burns. There's a little bit of a wind advisory out there as well. So yeah, we're going to have some stagnant air out there as you go through the day today. You guys saw that fog creeping around. Now, looking at the European, so this is what is coming for the day Friday. We do have this frontal system moving across western British Columbia, Vancouver Island as we go through tonight into tomorrow morning. It starts raining fairly early tomorrow for Seattle, then eventually down across Portland, and just kind of a classic frontal system. Nothing too exceptional there, and it does drop again, snowfall. There are some winter weather advisories out for the Cascades of Washington, and a little bit here for for portions of the Cascades of Oregon. You see some of those showers continuing on through Saturday morning. Another very weak system kind of swings through there, but then we remain dry as we go through the rest of the weekend. And on into the early portion of next week, you can see the storm track pointed up towards southeast Alaska, Haida Gwaii, but not in towards southwest BC, Washington, or Oregon. And that goes all the way up towards hour 144. And stay tuned here. We're going to be taking a look at the extended forecast as well. We got some interesting stuff I want to show you. But first things first, 24-hour snow totals. You can see you're dealing with some decent amounts, probably lowest amounts at Snoqualmie Pass. It is one of the lower passes here, probably the lowest pass here, the Cascades. In fact, at about 3,000 feet. Stevens Pass comes in at about 4,000 feet. So yeah, as we go through Saturday, that should be wrapping up. And you can see, let me back that up again here, because you can see some of the Rocky Mountains, the Blue Mountains, Idaho, western Montana getting some decent snow, and some of the Rockies of British Columbia as well, as before that system kind of slides out of here. Then we dry out for a few days. Now, taking a look at North America, you got Alaska to the top. There's Washington State. So this is last night's European run versus yesterday morning's European. These are the artificial intelligence runs. So I'm going to put this into motion. And there goes Friday's frontal system there. Of course, good model agreement on that in the short term. Put that into motion. And then we start to wait for this potential pattern change. You'll see some of the cooler air start to arrive. You can see it on both models. Now, it's starting to be pretty consistent on the European artificial intelligence, showing at least some Arctic air coming across Western Canada here and potentially moving down into some of central British Columbia, and then maybe even leaking out into some portions of the Pacific Northwest. So this is at 5,000 feet. So this kind of gives you a good idea of where that Arctic air is. You see, look at this Arctic blast moving down, especially east of the Rockies. But some of this could be impacting the Pacific Northwest. We got to watch it closely because it is a fairly close shot here. And a lot of this cold air could be moving in, especially places east of the Cascades, and including Idaho, Montana, central BC, eastern British Columbia, and eastern Oregon. So we got to be watching this one closely. You can see that we do have some agreement here between model runs on that cooler air, but look at this Arctic blast. This air comes rushing all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. And and then you can see the signal kind of holding on here for some chillier than normal weather as we go on in towards the later portion of January. More on that here in a moment. Now, if we take a look at the GFS 12Z run, this is again 5,000 feet. So we have Friday's frontal system right there marching through the Pacific Northwest. Nothing too special, kind of garden variety there. See some of this cooler air moving down east of the Rocky Mountains. And then we wait for that pattern change, and you start to see it a bit here as we go out towards hour 180, 200, 228 hours out. You can see some of this Arctic air up across the Yukon, Northwest Territories, Alaska, and a lot of this kind of stays off to the east on the 12Z GFS. So the GFS, at least, it's kind of keeping things a little more real for us, I believe. But you can see the Arctic air is going to try to make it pass. At least it has that Arctic air there. It does not settle down into British Columbia and eastern Washington, Idaho, and western Montana just as much as what the artificial intelligence model has been showing. If we take a look at yesterday afternoon's European model run now. So this is not the newest. I'm going to show you the newest here in a moment. There goes Friday's system coming through here. And then we start to scroll off in towards the extended forecast, and you'll see some of that cooler air start to arrive. And check this out. I mean, look at this. This would be very interesting here. Again, 5,000 feet. Look at that. Very cold air aloft coming down. You might get some cyclogenesis out of that, and that could be potentially lower elevation snowfall. A lot of cold air coming down across the region. But again, this is just one deterministic model run here. So we have to do our due diligence and check out the ensemble. So let's see what the ensemble said for the same time period here. Friday's system rolls through. We look for that pattern change, and you can see the cooler air making its way down into some of Western Canada. The bulk of that of the ensemble stays east of the Rocky Mountains, but you see that it is fairly closer. So we will be watching this over the next few days. So if we take a look at that, this is Quileute looking at about 18,000 feet and 5,000 feet here below. So you can see the control run is kind of doing its own thing. It brings that cooler air in here, but you see the ensemble mean it's not that special. It is not bringing that cold air in here just yet. The control run is the initial conditions, the best we understand them. So, it's probably our best guess. But again, the ensembles are not in agreement with that colder air moving down in here, at least not yet. However, we're going to take a look at the 12Z here in a moment. So stick with me happening again. And you can see the control run would be pretty chilly here for Bellingham. It brings some temperatures down into the lower teens. But again, you can see the control run is even colder than the most extreme ensemble members as we go through January 19th and 20th there. And not many of the ensemble members have very cold air making it down. Some of them have some balmy air around at that same time period too as well. So if we take a look at Spokane, probably a little bit better here, but still, even the mean and the ensembles just cools off a bit. The control run definitely much colder, and you can see some of these ensembles do have some of that chilly air. But again, a lot of these are not that special here as that Arctic air stays mainly off to the east. That's as of yesterday afternoon. So if we take a look at the 12Z run, in fact, let me change this up here because we're going to go to temperature anomaly. It's what we've been looking at. And it's what we're going to continue to do so here. 12Z run, there goes Friday's frontal system through the Pacific Northwest here. And then we wait to see what the latest on the 12Z model is going to bring. So here we go. We start to look at 180 hours plus out, and you can see that cooler air mainly east of the Rockies again here, but let's see how much of that comes down into north and central BC. That's not bad as well. That would bring some very chilly air into British Columbia. Probably not far enough out in this scenario that we could develop cyclogenesis off the coastline. So this would probably be more of a dry intrusion if this did happen, but it would still bring some cooler air, especially east of the Cascades. You can see this very bitter cold Arctic air mass very close and covering some of the Pacific Northwest. But what you want here is some of this spilling out over off the coast of British Columbia and wrapping back around into western Washington and Oregon and developing its own little low pressure system here and bringing some snowfall back in there. So right now, it's not too favorable for that, but you can see that is looking pretty close. So it's something we have to watch very carefully. And this is the one that's hot off the presses here. Not quite as much Arctic air making it down as what it was showing yesterday afternoon. So if we take a look at the extended forecast, and this is the ensemble mean for the European. This goes out 46 days, believe it or not. And we're going to scroll off in towards, the 18th, 19th of January. You can see it keeps the bulk of this Arctic air, but some of it does get down in towards portions of the Pacific Northwest. And then we scroll off into the future, and you can kind of see it continues to show this signal that has been showing for some time now as we go through the later portion of January and into February. This is no indicator of just exactly what's going to happen, but you can clearly see the pattern shows cooler than normal for Western Canada as we go on into the early portion of February, and then the mid portion as well. Kind of keeps that signal going. So, snow lovers, maybe it'll bring some good mountain snows, maybe even a lower elevation snowfall chance time or two as we go on in through the mid portion of February. Again, no promises there. We're just kind of watching the signals right now and looking at the tea leaves. But if we take a look at avalanche.org, not too bad right now. But again, we got some snowfall coming in as we go through tomorrow and tomorrow night and into Saturday morning. So heads up for that. Check avalanche.org before you go. There's the 6 to 10 day, below normal precipitation, 8 to 14 day broad brush, below normal across a lot of the lower 48. There's the precipitation outlook, and check out last night's European Artificial Intelligence sharp cutoff there right across western British Columbia, north of Vancouver Island, southeast Alaska, south coast of Alaska above average. And look at this Pacific Northwest, just big deficit here continues to show as we go through the extended forecast. That does not mean we can't get some Arctic air during this time frame, though. We'll see how that trends and how things change. So if we take a look at the GFS, also hot off the presses, 12Z 16-day precipitation anomaly. Let's also check out the European here as well. We're going to have to go there, and we're going to have to go down and select 15-day anomaly. And look at that, just a big deficit as the storm track is pointed north, and we kind of get this pattern change where we're bringing cooler air down here across central portions of the USA. Will it include the Pacific Northwest or not? Yet to be seen. And check it out, we are up over 92,000 subscribers here, and if we get a cold air blast here in the Pacific Northwest, my confidence is pretty high that we are going to get towards 100,000 as we go through this winter season, especially if Arctic air starts to show in the shorter term or continues to show in that mid-range that we've been watching here. But again, it's just something to watch. You can get a little excited if you want, but it's nothing you should be planning for just yet. But it does look like we are going to head towards a bit of a cooler pattern as we head off towards, January 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, second half of January, and then maybe again in early February. Again, we'll see how that goes. Take that with a grain of salt right now. But anyway, what else? Hope you guys are having a good day. Otherwise, we'll break this all down again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.